Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. In a world where action movies are constantly exploding at the box office, our heroes take on the monumental task of dissecting and analyzing all aspects of action movies to truly understand what it takes to make a great action film. Ben Bateman, Andrew Ghai, in a Popcorn Talk Network exclusive. This is Action Movie Anatomy.
Boom! Welcome to the show. I am Ben Bateman, your host of Action Movie Anatomy on Popcorn Talk, the online network talking movies and all things movie related. Joined today in a two-man show. This is our second one we've ever done. Mr. Andrew Ghai, where's your tie? That rhymes, and you knew it does.
Is it?
That's
You gonna stop?
Go ahead.
Look, I don't want to talk about what happened with the ties today. I don't know, I just didn't feel like wearing one. Although, coincidentally, I got a tweet like 2 weeks ago from a fan that was like, he's like, I really respect you a lot, but your shirt to tie combo looks like Stevie Wonder picked him out. It's like, thanks, man, I appreciate that.
You ran the Ross 8-for-1 deal. You went through 8. We got to cycle through.
I got to go buy 8 more.
It's laundry day.
What's up, guys? Happy to be here. Really excited to talk about the movie. And I'm happy it's a two-man show. I feel like you never want to hang out with me anymore. You don't want to talk to me.
So true story, guys. We've only done one of these two-man shows ever, and it was way back. It was a Tom Cruise movie. It was Mission Impossible 3, and it actually turned out to be one of the more popular episodes that we did. So this is kind of a return to our roots. Today we're doing Looper, a really unique, really special sci-fi movie for the new generation, directed by Rian Johnson. From 2012, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Bruce Willis, the smoking hot Emily Blunt, and this is kind of an exciting one. I mean, I love her. Oh, wait. We're doing Looper, not Emily Blunt.
She's
in the movie.
Right. I'm excited to talk about the movie, I guess.
So this is Action Movie Anatomy. Welcome to the show, guys. We do movies here on this show, and they adhere to 4 rules, basically, after being made 1981 or later, which is kind of like the unofficial first rule.
Right.
Rule number 1 is that the hero and the villain always are the smartest people in the room, or like villain, it could be an alien or something.
Raptor or something.
They're the smartest things in the room. Number 2, the hero always plays by his or her own rules. Rule number 3, the movie is always driven by a police, military, or political figure. And rule number 4, there's at least one explosion. This movie definitely breaks rule 3.
Yeah, there is no police, military, or political figure to follow.
Yeah, he's more of a mercenary.
Yeah, he's a hitman.
Yeah, he's a hitman. So, whatever. It doesn't really matter. It's still a sweet action movie.
Awesome action movie.
We did do a couple things differently in the last few weeks because we started to think about this, right? Like this movie, we did Minority Report last week. Mm-hmm. These are movies that are really great movies, but they're not really remembered for their iconic characters. So it's really difficult when you talk about them in the context of like, Predator or like Aliens, or you talk about them in the context of Die Hard. You're not dealing with like a McClane or a Riggs or a Dutch or one of these characters that really stands out. They're just great movies. So what we did is we took the 23 movies, this is episode 24 of Action Movie Anatomy, and we ranked them, our own personal lists.
That was incredibly difficult.
Extremely difficult.
I looked at it probably 5 times over the day that I sent it to you.
Basically, the only difference between the lists is that I love Edge of Tomorrow and you love Gladiator, and we had to jam it down each other's throats.
Yeah.
I'd just be like, I want it higher, and you're like, why is Gladiator not number 1? That's like all that happened, but we'll show you guys that list at the end of the episode when we get to this movie and where we're going to rank it in the list.
I think I know where I want to put this movie already. But
Already?
Obviously, we'll.
You're like Rain Man. You can see ahead. He couldn't see the future. I don't know why I said that.
I don't.
Tom Cruise is in that movie. Do you want to talk about that?
Let's talk about Tom Cruise.
So yeah, guys, before we get into the trailer for this movie, I do want to remind you, please rate and review on iTunes. We have a very limited number, far less than we thought, of Action Movie Anatomy mugs coming in very soon, and we've given 4 away so far. So if you go, once we get to 20 reviews and ratings on iTunes, we're going to be taking a break because we didn't get theirs fast enough as we thought we would to give away as many mugs as we thought. So we have a few to give away until we get to 20 reviews, and we'll be randomly selecting one of the reviews on iTunes to give a mug away. So go and find us on iTunes, give us a rating, give us a review. We'll be shipping your mug off with the 4 we've given away so far. And lastly, check out the other shows on Popcorn Talk. We have Anatomy of a Movie that comes out every Friday, covers new movies that we do on the network here. I'm not exactly sure what they're covering this week, but...
Is it Sicario? I think it could be.
Could
Sicario.
be. Yeah, I think last week was
Blunt.
Everest and The Martian.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a great show.
Incidentally, Emily Blunt.
Yes, absolutely. And also The Walk, which I believe comes out next week.
Right.
Gentlemen,
Yes.
it is actually both Sicario and The Martian.
Look at us go.
Look at that. I saw
This
The
is
Martian.
perfect.
It was excellent. You guys should watch Anatomy of a Movie. That will talk all about it. Oh yeah, and we have a new show on the network. It's actually not a new show. It was a show that used to be called Do Games Make Good Movies? That is now called Video Game Anatomy.
Video game movie anatomy.
Video Game Movie Anatomy.
VGMA.
And VGMA. And we will I guess we'll call that sort of like a sister podcast because it's got the same name
is
and everything
very
like
similar,
that.
yeah.
You guys should check that out as well. Do we know when that airs? When does Video Game Movie Anatomy air?
Because there is such a short list of video game movies, it airs every 2 Mondays. So in 2 weeks, October 19th will be the next episode.
Excellent. So
Yeah,
check that out.
I watched a good amount of the Final Fantasy episode. It's good stuff. It was fun.
I remember that movie distinctly.
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin with it's Ben Affleck with Alec Baldwin's voice.
It was not a good movie.
No. But you guys can see what they thought of it on their show. So anyway, let's get into the movie, guys. This is Looper from 2012. Let's cue the trailer and chat about how much sweeter new trailers are than
Oh
old
my
trailers.
gosh, I know.
Me in 30 years.
This is what they talk, or this is what we were talking about. How like just have the characters say what you want to write on the screen.
You know what's gonna happen. You done all this already? As me?
I don't want to talk about time travel.
We both know how this has to go down. So why don't you do what old men do and die?
Why don't you just take your little gun out between your legs and do it, boy?
Their dynamic together is just really good. It's very good.
Yeah.
Captivating, and like I love the idea of like in the very beginning
time travel
when they
is
first get
outlawed.
introduced to each other
Used
and
only
Willis is kind of
secretly by the
following him
largest
around,
criminal
Yeah.
like saving his ass.
Yeah.
This idea came to me
When
like
they need someone
watching the
gone,
movie, and I
and they wanna
mentioned it to
erase
you.
any trace
It was
of the
like,
target ever
could you
existed.
imagine seeing
They
yourself when you're in your
specialized
40s,
assassins,
or when
like
you're in your
Looper.
40s, looking at yourself in your
Called
20s and be like,
Loopers.
this dumbass.
Right.
What is he doing? You know?
You're a looper.
Those
what we do?
droppers are a good time, by the way.
And the only rule is never let your target escape.
That's a
Even
joke.
if you
Drops are
target
not cool, guys.
Jokes are not cool unless they're the droplets that go in your eyes in
You.
the future.
In the movie Looper. It's just so funny because we just,
Not
I
a
think
good thing.
over the
My
last
boss
like
will be
month
searching
we
for him till he
did, I want
finds
to say like
him.
Minority Report, Gladiator, Born Identity, and The Matrix.
Yeah.
All of which were made like within a few years of each other. They're all made within 3 years. And all 4 trailers had like the same like fatal flaw.
Absolutely.
Which is just like this dramatic thing happens writing on the screen. It's dramatic. Yeah, exactly. We can see the future. Like, no, it's like,
Exactly.
the future can be seen. My favorite was when we were talking about Minority Report, how like in nowadays crews would just like say the voiceover of those
Right,
lines.
and it wouldn't even be in the movie.
And like, yeah, it's awesome. But
See, and then they do put writing in it, but it's like, it's not, I don't know. It's done better.
it's just not the
It's
same.
because it's cheap.
Oh my god.
It's just a little bit, yeah.
Piper Perabo, why are you in this movie?
Yeah, it is funny. I mean, you just,
Like, she gets naked in this movie. I think she's just trying really hard.
I mean,
It's not a bad movie to be in at all.
not at all.
It's like a good,
actually.
it's kind of like, it's almost the equivalent of like picking up a free agent that you think is going to do really well and it pays off in fantasy football.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
This movie's low budget. She read the script, loved it. She's like, I'll take this bit role. Hopefully it'll help my career again.
Oh, I think when you read the script and it's like Rian Johnson's next movie and Bruce Willis and JGL are on board, she's like, I'll do it for free.
Oh yeah,
like,
no, that kind of ties into my thesis statement
Yeah.
a little bit.
So so that's the trailer for Looper, which I thought was really quite good. We are
Very
going to
good trailer.
start out right now with our thesis statement, so our bold statement. This is kind of that moment where you think about the movie and you're like, you know, what is the most important thing about this movie? What's going to stand the test of time? What makes this movie memorable? And that's what we start with. So if anybody is watching on YouTube streaming live, or you want to tweet at us and let us know if you have a specific thought about the movie, try to root it in sort of like hyperbole. It shouldn't be like, this is my favorite this, or there's a really cool this. It's like, this changed this, or this will be the best this, whatever. So
That was very well stated.
yeah, thank you. If you want to tweet at either one of us, I'm Ben Bateman Media, and you can tweet at Andrew Ghai. Let's get into it. What do you got, buddy?
Okay, so for me, I think this is one of the greatest examples of just raw storytelling propelling a movie beyond what anyone thought it was going to be. like
Of all time?
Of all time. No, I don't think of all time because I mean,
you have some pretty good examples of that in the history of film.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this movie, it's literally just great storytelling. They don't get caught up on telling the past of Bruce Willis. They don't get caught up on explaining time traveling. They just tell you a great story that keeps you engaged the whole time. And a testament to that is Emily Blunt read half the script and she was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
And that was before she even was introduced to her own character.
It's awesome.
No idea what she was going to do. She was like, I don't care. I could be a crackhead on the side of the street. I'm going to be in this movie. It's kind of what you were talking about with Piper.
Yeah.
Because this movie is just great. It's just really good storytelling. It cost $30 million to make.
Yeah.
You get something that's this good with these big of names, and it looks like it's a big budget.
Yeah.
It's just phenomenal.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I was thinking about what about this movie stands out to be, because it's not very old. It's only 3 years old.
Right.
I did see this movie in theaters, and I was pretty blown away by it. The movie that comes to mind for me that this is closest to in the last 5 or 6 years is District 9. It just in terms of the impact it had when it came out.
For sure.
You know, same kind of deal. Very gritty, very sort of dark, futuristic movie, well told.
And I think District 9 was actually pretty cheap, relatively cheap to make as well. Yeah.
The big difference for me between this and District 9 is that I walked out of District 9 feeling like it was a really good movie, but it was so filled with hate. That movie, like, there's so much negative energy in that movie that I remember walking out of it just feeling kind of grimy. Like it was a good story. It was very effective, but I've never wanted to watch it again.
Yeah, it's interesting because in this movie there are parts of it that are like, whoa, like when they catch Paul Dano's character, and you see his old self start to like disintegrate.
Yeah.
That is gnarly. Like that scene, every time I watch it, and I love horror movies, I love dark movies, it gets to me in like a weird way. Like I do not enjoy it, but I do understand because this movie ultimately ends up, it's a happy story. You know, the good guy wins, the good people get away, and the bad guys lose. You know,
the good guy sort of wins.
He wins. He totally wins.
Yeah,
you know,
in a way.
In a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not the same type of hate-driven film.
It's just weird. I mean, I know I've said this to people about District 9 before, and it's a very abstract thing. It could have been the state of mind I was in when I watched it. It's just that because that movie obviously has like racial tension, that's like what the whole thing is about that movie.
Right.
When you watch a movie that's got so much killing and so much like race war, essentially, ignorant people.
It's gnarly what they do, like the way that they treat the aliens and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's just really gnarly. So anyway, my thesis statement about this movie, though, is I was thinking about the impact it had on me. Rian Johnson is going to be one of the definitive filmmakers of our generation. If you don't know that yet, it's because he's so young and he's only done a few films. I believe Rian Johnson will be one of the definitive filmmakers of our generation, and this movie will be remembered as his young masterpiece. That is my
You don't think it'll be
statement.
Brick? Because I feel like Brick is kind of more so the thing that broke him through, and that was like the thing that really got him noticed by people.
I would say in the mold of like, say, Danny Boyle, where
Right.
Shallow Grave broke him, but Trainspotting is his young masterpiece.
Okay. Yeah.
It's,
I totally agree with
Brick is like a very good movie, but when I watched Brick the second time, it was sort of like, this is a really good movie for what it was, and it's incredibly impressive that this was made by a 30-year-old kid.
Right.
This is his first movie. It's only $500,000, but I'm not compelled to watch it over and over again.
Right,
I can
whereas
watch
with this
Looper.
movie-
This is a movie I can see a lot of times.
I've seen this movie probably close to 10 times.
Yeah.
Or around there.
So that's my thesis statement, and I think you guys will see in the next few years. Rian Johnson is signed on right now to direct Star Wars Episode 8, and he's also, I believe, one of the co-writers on Star Wars Episode 9.
Yeah, which is incredible.
It's
to think.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean that's where your thesis statement really hits home. Is you look at what this guy's done, and he gets given a Star Wars movie.
Yeah, well, so that's when I say that, it's actually I'm gambling like my belief in his success less on his talent and more on the fact that do any of us really think that those movies aren't going to break records and make more money than anything?
I cannot wait to see what number 7 does to the box office.
It's gonna be crazy. It's probably gonna be the highest grossing movie of all time.
I believe so.
But the point is, he's going to get given the 8th movie, which means no matter how good or bad the 8th, or the 9th movie is, they're going to make so much money that any studio is going to say, this guy's a success, give him whatever he wants, he can make whatever movie he wants. At that point, in whatever, I guess it's going to be, are they coming out successively in 2016, 17, 18?
I believe so, but I'm not positive. I don't want to like speak on that one. I'm
Yeah.
not positive, but I believe so.
So if he does 2017, let's just say Star Wars Episode 8, whatever movie he does after that is going to be some massive, huge. Yeah. And that's why I believe you are going to see this guy. He's 41 years old
But I
right
also
now.
think it'll be huge to the sense of like a No Country for Old Men type huge,
Yeah,
or something like that, where it's not like Avengers huge,
Yeah.
or Jurassic Park huge, or World. But
He's too smart of a filmmaker.
he's too smart, and
Yeah.
he likes telling great stories too much to pick a movie that's just like, I'm gonna make money.
It's just like Colin Trevorrow when he did Jurassic World. Trevorrow is interested in doing his movies now, the movies he wants to do, but he
Right.
has so much cred from Jurassic World. So anyway, that is my thesis statement. Let's
I
get
like
into
that.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's get into fist pump. And fist pump moment. This is that moment where you're sitting on the couch, you're watching the movie, and something happens, and we're assuming you're watching the movie by yourself. Maybe you've got a glass of wine in your hand. I don't know.
Or maybe you've even got a friend that'll watch a movie with you.
Maybe you're using those sweet eyedroppers from Looper, and you're just into the movie.
Look, man, I'm having a hard time.
And something happens, and you're like, oh my god, that's so sweet. You kind of glance around, like, is anyone else seeing this
Yeah.
right now? And you're just like, I am so stoked. I get to watch the rest of this movie. God, I love this movie.
Yeah.
And that is a fist pump moment. It could be anything. Could be a line from a character. Could be the score. Could be an explosion. Could be a touching moment between a father and a son at the end of Warrior.
Okay.
Anyway, that is our fist pump moment, and we're going to share our fist pump moments right now.
You're gonna go first.
Am I?
Yes.
Okay. I would say my fist pump moment in this film is probably that scene when Jesse is being lifted up while Sid is having his like
so
TK
sweet.
explosion, and in slow mo you see like the blood from his body being like
start to
pulled
pull-
out of
oh.
his body.
Yeah.
That's pretty gnarly. It's
Yeah.
really, 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 really cool. I just really, really enjoyed that scene. I don't know. It's just.
My fist pump moment comes from the exact same scene.
Okay, yeah.
Actually.
It's just epic. It's epically like, wow.
It's
Like,
just really well done, and it's kind of one of those things. It's like, why have they been alluding to telekinesis throughout this whole film? Who cares? Like, what is? Oh wow, Paul Dano used it to pick up girls. Emily Blunt uses it to shut down guys.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're like, oh,
yeah.
holy shit. This
Yeah.
is how one guy is so powerful that he ends up basically taking over the world in the future.
It's also cool because it's one of the few scenes in the movie where like there's clearly like some kind of computer effect,
Right.
CGI something.
Yeah.
They're very sparse in this movie. They don't use a lot of it, and also they don't show you how powerful Sid is very many times in the movie.
No.
Like a few times. You only get a few moments of it. This is the kind of the gnarliest example of how much damage he can do.
Right, this, and then when you find out that the way that he killed his aunt
Yeah.
was,
The
there
same
was
thing,
like
essentially.
yeah, an accident, essentially.
Yeah.
My fist pump moment is when Joseph Gordon-Levitt unveils his Miata.
For those of you on audio, there was just an intense stare between us that just happened.
No, my fist pump... my fist bump moment is when it's the same scene. I'm really glad we just shared that together.
The same scene.
It's
It's
the same
actually
scene.
when he unveils his Miata.
It's when Jesse gets picked up and there's this look in Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Or no, excuse me. It's when Sid starts to fall.
Yeah.
And there's this look in Levitt's eyes, and he's like, "Oh my God!" He like goes to save him.
Yeah.
And then there's this look in Emily Blunt's eyes, like, "Oh my son, I got to go save him." No.
Yeah.
She's like, "We need to get the fuck out of here right now." And she
Yeah.
grabs Joseph Gordon-Levitt and takes him out the door.
She straight up like
She's like-
delivers a legal NFL hit on him
Yeah,
through
she's
the
like,
door.
"I'm saving your life."
shoulder
This is-
first to the chest.
It's so cool because at that moment, as a viewer, you're like, "Is the kid gonna die? Or like, is he gonna get hurt? Or like, what's happening exactly?" And you think maybe JGL is gonna like save him, and then you realize like, no, this
Yeah.
dude is way more powerful than any of you can imagine.
It's also like the other effective moment that they use earlier is when Sid is screaming the first time she goes and locks herself in the safe.
Right.
Yeah. They just do a great job with that. It's
very heavy,
Yeah.
but it's not heavy-handed.
Yeah.
And then my other fist pump is, it's that thing that I talked about. It's when they start ripping apart the future Paul Dano.
Yeah.
Even though it's so hard for me to watch, and it's by far one of the gnarlier things. I mean, like his like fingers start disappearing, and then his ankle and his arms, and he's like when he's banging on the door, and it's just like his limbs.
Yeah.
The reason it's my fist pump moment is not because I enjoy watching it, and
Yeah.
not because I look around. I look around, I'm like, holy shit! Did you just see that?
Yeah.
Like the genius that went behind creating the tension of that scene.
Yeah.
was like, wow, that's just great writing right
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah. All right. Excellent. Let's get into star profiles and sort of break down where these guys are in their career.
there. Yeah. I mean, this is Joseph Gordon-Levitt can do no wrong right now.
Yeah, he's
He is-
completely hitting his stride over the last say 4 or 5 years. This is sort of part of the run, which is like what we're in right now. The Walk is about to come out.
Right.
He's in contention already in awards discussions for that role. He's had a few really great roles recently. I mean, I never saw Premium Rush, which came out just before this.
And I wanted to mention that is that like it's interesting that because this is the time when it was like, okay, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is a leading man. He can just do he did like Hesher a few years beforehand.
Yeah, I remember that.
He was in G.I. Joe and all that, 500 Days of Summer. But then he goes in and he does Inception, 50-50, Dark Knight Rises, Premium Rush, and Looper.
Yeah.
And then he does Lincoln and then Don John.
Yeah.
But it's kind of this time when you're like,
wait, movie with Marlon Brando and Johnny Depp, Don Juan DeMarco?
No. Love that movie. But it's like one of those things where it's like this is when we talk about the guy.
Right.
This is like the guy moment for him. Put him in anything as the lead and people should go watch it.
Yeah, you wonder if he's getting to that point. Like, each of these examples, he's not the guy in any of these movies up until probably Looper, but even Looper...
Premium Rush, Looper.
Yeah, but Premium Rush is not like a movie.
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying, though.
Yeah.
It's like this movie about like a bike delivery or whatever. I didn't see it.
Directed by David Coop, who we like looked him up, and it's like, oh, this guy wrote everything. He's written like every good movie, and then he's directed like 5, and all of the movies he's directed have been kind of like,
I mean, audience, if I'm wrong, like let us know. Let me know if we should watch Premium Rush. I mean, we could be missing out on a huge,
I don't know anything
great
about
movie.
it, really. I guess my point is, like, in each of these movies, he's a really... Well, though 50-50 is one of your favorites. I haven't seen 50-50.
Love 50-50.
But in like each of the others here, he's more of a supporting character.
Just strong supporting character.
And even in Looper, where he's basically the lead, it's also, like, Bruce Willis is also the lead, and that movie gets sold, and the studio's willing to put $30 million behind that movie at that point because Bruce Willis is in it. Right. He's Bruce Willis.
It's not one of those things you can market as just Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
It's just Gordon-Levitt, Bruce Willis, and Emily Blunt. Like, they are the 2 lead guys.
Yeah. So, anyway, but looking at this and then thinking about where his career is now, he's not your traditional, like, handsome, square-jawed, like, leading man.
Yeah.
But he seems to be just carving out this niche for himself where if Joseph Gordon-Levitt's in a movie, it's kind of like a Fassbender effect a little bit.
Okay.
You know, Fassbender's a little more handsome, I think, but even so... It's the same kind of thing. It's a really talented guy, and people are willing to root for him because he just seems to take good projects.
And he's got the like boyish charm that's like very like endearing, I guess.
And he's been around forever.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see him play a bad guy one day.
And I'm sure he will.
Yeah.
Actually, it's amazing neither of us have used him as a recast for a good film.
I know. I feel like I should have used him at some point. I know. It's crazy to think back to Third Rock from the Sun and like watching that and seeing this kid who he didn't really like steal the show by any means. It was kind of all about French Stewart kind of stealing it, you know?
Yep.
Him and Lithgow.
Lithgow.
But yeah, what a great run for this kid.
Yeah, and he's just young. He's got to be... Is he
early
40
30s?
yet?
No, he's in his 30s.
He's in his 30s, yeah. Man, it's awesome. He's definitely hitting his stride. I like the vast majority of these movies, and, you know, we were talking about Willis on the flip side, and it's funny, like, I was thinking Willis's career had just tanked.
Yeah.
And it kind of has, but but not really. Like it's tanked. So the 3 movies that we listed here beforehand are Fire with Fire, Expendables 2, and Moonrise Kingdom. So Moonrise is a role that he gets because Wes Anderson is, you know, a guy in his 40s who is going to cast actors that he grew up watching, and Willis is a guy that he watched. So it's a Wes Anderson movie. Like Willis is not your normal sort of like Wes Anderson actor, but it would make sense he would get that movie because Wes Anderson's
right.
Like,
he's watched him his whole life and been like, okay, you can play this part very well. And
exactly. And I know you can, so I'm just going to offer it to Bruce Willis. You know, that's like a very legit movie.
Yep.
Right after Expendables 2 is sort of much more of like what we're talking about with it's tanked but not really.
Right.
Die Hard 4, Die Hard 4, Die Hard 5. Right? Both of them are like 4 made a lot of money, 5 was a huge travesty. Like,
right.
But neither of them are as exciting or credible to a new film guy.
Right, and none of them are quite like The Witch King.
Yeah.
With Cage. You know what I mean? Like they're not that bad, but they're not that good.
They're not quite as
just
bad
kind of forgettable.
As I am the white ghost.
The blood of the... What is it?
The blood that they spill will be on our swords, will be on our blades. Then, you know, Fire with Fire in 2012. Now, I didn't see Fire with Fire.
I didn't either.
The thing about Willis that I've noticed, and if you guys have an opinion on this, you can sound off because we're in a different era right now with movies, and movie stars especially. There's a lot of straight-to-video, and there's a lot of Redbox and, like, streaming-only kind of movies that come out nowadays.
Right.
Even when I see trailers for movies with stars in them on TV now, it's hard to tell sometimes if a movie is one or the other. Where back 10 years ago, you could see a trailer for something, you could just know, is that going to be a theater movie or is that going to be a straight to video movie? They just felt different.
And then also those movies that didn't go to theaters that were straight to video or like very small indie releases, you were like,
right, I'm probably not going to see that movie.
Yeah.
What you notice nowadays is you see a lot more of these former A-listers like Bruce Willis, and you can sort of tell something about their career by just the number of those movies you see them in. Mm-hmm. Some guys from that era still hold out, and they don't do those movies. Like, just for the most part, they're only still in major releases. There's not a whole lot of guys that do that, but you're not going to see Tom Hanks in a whole lot of straight-to-video movies. Like,
Fair.
He'll do his one movie a year. Russell Crowe is going to do his one movie a year, and he's not going to be
De Niro has actually started to kind of be that
straight-to-video guy.
Or in, like, Netflix video movies
exactly.
and stuff like that.
So what I noticed is the last few years, I feel like Fire with Fire is one of those where...
It kind of, like, even just looking at the cover art, it kind of felt like that. Yeah.
There's a few others as well that have come out, I think, a little more recently. But interestingly enough, in the same 10-year run, there's a few movies that he's done where you're like, oh yeah, he did. So it's like Die Hard 4, Die Hard 5. He did Red 2, G.I. Joe 2, Rise of the Cobra, I believe he was in.
He's done decent movies.
Yeah.
It's just like nothing that kind of like hits home. Like Looper.
Yeah.
He hasn't done anything quite like Looper since Looper, it feels.
Looper's like a really good movie.
Yeah.
And like Bruce Willis used to be in really good movies. In the 90s, in the late 80s, up until the early 2000s, Willis was doing like very strong movies. And
Yeah.
if he was in something, you could trust it was probably going to be pretty good.
Right. Or at least entertaining, or at least make some money.
Yeah. So he sort of is on the cusp right now. He's like on the edge. He's not done. He feels like the right director could give him a project that's going to still be awesome. But in a lot of ways, he's one of these guys that was an action star, and it's difficult for those guys seemingly to reinvent themselves without that genre being what it used to be.
Right. And this is why this is such a perfect movie for him.
Yeah.
He is such a badass in this movie.
It's great.
But he also gets to play that like father figure type. Not really a father figure to Joseph Gordon-Levitt, but like you see him, he's like he wants to settle down and live with his wife and like, be left alone. It's great.
Yeah, that whole rant that he goes on when he's at the diner and he's like kind of off in his own world. You give your love, and you're like a sponge.
She saves your life.
She saves your life. She cleans you up, and it shows him.
Come
like,
out to the coast. We'll have a few drinks.
California. How could the same thing happen to the same guy so many times?
Say I called back to our Die Hard episode. No big deal.
You guys can check that one out at
if you want.
If you want. So I would say that pretty much wraps it up for Star Profiles. We can talk a little Emily Blunt.
Wait, hold on. We got these pictures. These pictures of our stars together.
Yeah, we had two different side by sides. I think we've been on the one here. We can jump over to the other, which is very funny.
As you can see, they've looked like each other for basically their entire lives.
For a number of years. and then if we jump to Emily Blunt, oh, look at that. It's from Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh,
whammy.
Look at that. I like how we didn't even cover her in Star Profiles. We're like, just that picture from Edge of Tomorrow? Yeah, that needs to be in there.
So a couple things here, guys. One, the second episode of Action Movie Anatomy was Edge of Tomorrow.
Can you just be quiet so I can look at this picture?
I need the audience to hear me breathing heavily. Edge of Tomorrow is one of our favorites. It has our lovely guest Roxy Stryer, who is Action Movie Anatomy MVP on the episode, and we
love you, Rox.
We talk about this scene and this yoga move a number of times. In it, there's actually a picture of her equally cool holding a shotgun in this movie that we decided not to include.
You're like, we should use this picture. I was like, no, we gotta use the Edge of Tomorrow. I wish you would have pulled the other one where it's her doing that, but Tom Cruise is just like sitting there creepily staring at her.
Yeah, it's weird. It's awesome though.
Yeah.
So Emily Blunt. What a weird career she's had. She seemingly came out of nowhere.
Right.
She kind of like Looper, Edge of Tomorrow, Sicario. Like she just has been in some things now.
She's incredible.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
What's the part of we're not covering her in Star Profiles, but like what's the part of Emily Blunt's career that happened before like that stuff? Like
just keep talking. I'm gonna pull it up.
Like I'm wondering, like was she in Sunshine Cleaning, or am I making that up?
You're making that one up. I'm pretty sure.
Or was she in Devil Wears Prada?
She was in Devil Wears. I was just gonna say because that was the first thing that came up. Is Devil Wears Prada was kind of the first big one.
That was like a big one where she broke through. People liked her. I feel like
Jane Austen Book Club, Dan in Real Life, Charlie Wilson's War. Oh no, she was in Sunshine Cleaning.
I knew it.
I hate you.
Which, if any of you don't remember what Sunshine Cleaning is, it was the like equally like a dark comedy follow up to Little Miss Sunshine that even had the name Sunshine in the title that like no one saw.
Right. It's like they clean up after murders, don't they?
I think so. And like Alan Arkin is also in it.
Yeah.
Reprising his Oscar-winning role, essentially.
Yeah.
It looked like they're just basically trying to make the same movie again.
Right.
At least they were.
with one word in the title, it was the same.
They were marketing it exactly the same. I didn't ever see it. I just remember Emily Blunt was in it. But that was before I knew who she was, really.
Wolfman, Adjustment Bureau, Your Sister's Sister, which I really like, which is kind of like one of those indie drom-coms.
And also Adjustment Bureau that's like a big one.
Yeah. And then 5-Year Engagement, and then Looper. So like.
She's kind of like Rose Byrne. She's just sort of stuck around.
She's picked very good movies for her part. Like she's very good in My Sister's Sister.
I feel like Rose Byrne is her comp, except that Rose Byrne excels in comedy roles, where Emily Blunt seems to excel in action roles. They're like the same person otherwise.
Was it Damages? What was that show that Rose Byrne got popular from?
I don't know. I just knew Rose Byrne for years and years and years as like being that chick who was in that movie.
Right.
You know, she's in Sunshine, and she's in Bridesmaids, and she's in this new movie that's coming out and she was in Wicker Park, I think. And she's like in all these movies over the years. Just successful career. Everybody loves Rose Byrne. Anyway, that is Emily Blunt. She's amazing. So
big fan.
See Sicario.
Damages. That is what it was.
Damages. Right. Okay. Let's move on to Rian Johnson. So, Rian Johnson, Brick, 05. That's his big breakthrough movie. $500,000. It's a high school noir film. It's sort of like a weird murder movie. It's the kind of movie that if you were like in high school or college when it came out, you probably thought it was pretty awesome. And if you were older than that, you probably thought it was like a little like, it's kind of like for kids, but this is a good movie still, and it's amazing. Right. This is this guy's first movie.
Kinda, like, I have the same feeling about it that I kind of have with Go. I don't know if you ever watched Go, but like I watched that in college and in high school, and I was like, this movie's sweet. And now I think about it now, I'm like, it's still good. I just don't really want to watch it.
Yeah.
You know? Which
is totally makes sense. If you're around like 29, 30 years old and you're making your first movie, and it's probably a script you've had for a long time kicking around, it's a very unique concept. He actually says when he's talking about Brick that it wasn't supposed to be noir. They never used the word film noir at any point in time while talking about the movie and developing the movie, which is kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
But it's one of these movies that was a film festival hit. We'll kind of just cover his producer, Ron Bergman, as well.
Yeah.
At the same
they've
time.
Been partners for ever since they did
Brick
together.
So Ron Bergman is a guy who I read an interview with him on Variety recently where he's talking about he came here from Israel, and he was like, you see all these guys that are in the industry, and they're trying to break in, they're trying to get in from the ground floor, and they're in mail rooms and they're PAs. He's like, the problem with that is you're spending so much of your time, so many of your hours just bending over backwards for no money.
Right.
It's really hard to have time to do the things you want to do. So he's like, I elected to take a job as a valet, which had nothing to do with my industry, work those hours, table that money, and then just try to rub two pennies together to essentially, and this is paraphrasing, obviously, it's not a direct quote,
to memorize this whole thing
to essentially try to raise the money. And he tried to learn the whole thing from the ground up, raising the money, setting up the production, shooting the film, selling the film, and then starting over. And one of his early projects was Brick, and Brick was very successful for what it was.
Right.
Which is why he and Rian Johnson have kind of stuck together. Now, if it's Rian Johnson, I always thought it was Rian Johnson, but it's spelled with an I instead of a Y.
I used to call him Rain Johnson. I think it's because I can't read.
There's an I. It's in front of the A, though.
I before A, except after.
That doesn't apply here.
All right.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about Miatas again?
I just want to say I got a new Miata this year, 2008.
Got a new car, Mazda Miata.
It's because MacGruber drives one, okay?
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to.
Big shout out to Max Brockman. Big shout out to MB.
Our longtime fan and friend, and just the biggest MacGruber lover out there.
Just the biggest one. Probably the only person that loves it more than you.
Yeah. I don't know about that. Let's not get crazy.
Let's not get into that.
So after Brick, that was kind of his first notable movie.
That's the breakthrough.
That's his breakthrough,
Yeah.
and that was when him and Johnson started working together, and then he went on to work on Brothers Bloom with them, and now he's also, obviously he did Looper, we're talking about it, did Don John, and now he's going to produce 8, and I think he's also co-writing 9.
Did Rian Johnson direct Don John?
No, I don't believe so.
I'm saying
that he produced it.
Bergman did.
Bergman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's worked with Levitt a few times. Don John was written and directed by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, actually.
Oh, I didn't know that he directed it.
Yeah, and I haven't seen it, but I heard it was actually really good.
I've heard it's
super
pretty entertaining, yeah. So I do want to just talk briefly before we get up to Looper about the break in his career between Brick and Looper.
Okay.
So
who are you talking about? Bergman? Johnson. Yeah.
So Johnson is this kid who has this early success with with Brick. And then I remember seeing Brick before Brothers Bloom came out. I probably saw Brick in like 07 would be my guess.
Right.
I saw the trailers for the Brothers Bloom.
Me too.
And I remember just having this like sort of like cocking my head like, what a weird cast. Like Adrian Brody, Mark Ruffalo, Rachel Weisz. It's
Oliver
like
Platt.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And it's some sort of like it's like some kind of comedy, like screwball, like
They're the best con men in the world, swindling millionaires with complex scenarios of lust and intrigue. They say in here, and this is like a story about their last job.
Yeah, I think there was one of those iTunes 6-minute previews at one point of this movie because I think I watched the first 6 minutes of it or something.
And
I just was sort of like the same feeling the trailer gave me.
Right.
It was trying to be very clever. It just didn't seem to quite do it for me. And I don't think this movie was successful at all. I don't ever remember hearing a word about it from anyone.
No, I was working at Blockbuster at the time, and like I've told you the story numerous times. Is back when there were movies or video stores, they would get like 300 DVDs right when it came out, and then after about 2 months of it being popular, you'd have to scrap, and by that I mean you would go in and take an X-Acto knife to the disc and just cut it right down the middle, so it was unwatchable to about 2/3 to 3/4 of those copies. And so if you worked there, you could always just take them home with you instead of throwing it away. You could. So I have like tons of free movies.
Yeah.
I didn't take this one home.
You just
It
were
was free.
uninterested.
I just didn't want it. I
Right.
had Blue Crush, and I didn't take the Brothers Bloom.
Really? Blue Crush?
Can we start over? I don't know why I
Don't
mentioned
touch her.
it. Don't touch her.
That's the only line from that movie I remember.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, it's from the trailer. Anyway, I never saw the film. Is what I was trying to get at. You did. Let's move on.
Back to what Johnson was doing before Looper, okay?
Yeah, so Brothers Bloom comes out in 08, right? And you'd think this young kid who has the success with Brick, he makes a second movie with a bunch of movie stars in it. It doesn't do anything. It's 4 more years until this movie came out.
Right.
Now, he worked on some music videos.
He directed 1 episode of Terriers.
Yeah, you know, he was definitely... Once you're sort of in the loop, in the running, no pun intended, you kind of... your name will be on people's lips for at least a while in Hollywood until you have a huge disappointment. In some ways, Brothers Bloom was a huge disappointment.
I think it was one of those things where people didn't care about it enough to be a huge disappointment.
Yeah.
Whereas like with Looper, again, they probably didn't care about it that much. But if Looper was a huge disappointment, then I think that's when they would have been like, all right, dude, nice try. Next.
Yeah, so James Stern, Rem Bergman, and Rian Johnson start working on this film.
Yes.
And as you said, the script was very appealing. One by one, the people are signing on to this movie.
Yep.
And but the budget is not huge. It's a $30 million budget.
Very small.
But for him, for $30 million compared to the $500,000 for Brick.
Right.
So they get into making this movie. This movie comes out. It's very successful. We'll talk about the numbers in just a second. But after this.
This is cool.
Yeah.
This is just super cool.
He ends up directing 3 episodes of Breaking Bad.
3 of the best episodes of Breaking Bad.
So there's an episode of Breaking Bad called The Fly, which is the one where Walter White is stuck inside the meth lab under the dry cleaners, and there's a fly that he can't kill that is driving him crazy, which is a really just slow, cerebral episode. A lot of people think is like one of the best ones. He directed that. He directed the 4th episode of the final season, and pretty much every episode in that season is great. And then the most important one he directed is Ozymandias, which is the episode, spoiler, just shut up your ears right now.
And go watch Breaking Bad. God damn it. If this is
Yeah.
a spoiler for you, get your life together. I love you, but seriously.
That movie's incredible, or that show's incredible. It's the second to last episode, I believe, or third to last, Ozymandias, where I'll just say one of the very main characters dies, and the episode is just insane.
Just say it.
Well, there's no need to.
All right.
It's an insane episode, and it quickly went on to be regarded as the greatest episode of the show, as well as one of the greatest episodes of television ever made. And this guy, Rian Johnson, directed the episode.
Yeah.
I mean, in between movies, like in between doing this movie and getting signed on to do Star Wars Episode 8.
Again, that's what's so crazy about this guy. You do Brick. You do Brothers Bloom. You get money to do Looper. Then you're like, oh, okay, this guy's good. Let's have him direct 3 episodes of the biggest show in the world at the time. And he kills it.
And I think it's a testament to what you said about storytelling earlier.
Yeah.
This movie is such a great example of storytelling. It's such a unique quantity, this movie. Like, it's a commodity. Like, movies that come along that are this original, this well told, this succinct, made for this much money, that look as good as they do.
Right.
They're so rare.
They're incredibly. It does not happen.
I mean, this is like when Terminator came out. It's like Obviously, I'm not going to say Looper's as good as Terminator, but it's the same kind of thing. It's a very, very specific, very creative concept that this guy writes and directs and puts the whole thing together. And you watch it, you walk out of it being like, that's not based on a book.
No.
That's not based on a comic book.
This guy's brain.
That's just an idea he had, which is why he gets Star Wars, because the smart people behind Disney now are saying, let's put a guy with a brain like this behind this franchise. Let's not just put Michael Bay behind Star Wars Episode 8,
Well, that's what I mean. You go Looper to 3 of the biggest episodes of the biggest show on TV to Star Wars.
It's crazy.
This dude, you go and you look. Look, we do a lot of research on this show. And we do a lot of it on IMDb and Wikipedia. And you go and you click on his thing. Director, 9 credits. Writer, 8 credits. Editor, 3. Actor, 1.
Yeah, he
has nothing in the double digits.
There's very little about this movie even. Brick,
Yeah,
there's
very little about him, period.
About Looper, yeah. So I think, as I said, you're watching right now the birth of one of the definitive directors of this generation.
Right. This is like the Paul Thomas Anderson, Darren Aronofsky's of our generation.
Yeah.
Like J.J. Abrams is very similar to him.
Yeah, it's hard to find young guys that are 40 or younger that like have this kind of momentum.
They're this innovative,
especially in today's film medium. Like they come up, they have to kind of hit a couple home runs before we hear about them, and this guy is that guy. So let's talk budget.
Yeah. So the $30 million.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
This is one of the lowest budget movies we've done on this entire show.
I mean, some of the movies that cost
episodes.
30 were made in 1986.
Right.
Like some of the movies that we've covered in the late 80s are those movies.
And some of those movies that we covered in the late 80s cost twice as much as this movie to make.
So, quick numbers. Opened September 28th, 2012. So it's a fall release. This is after summer. This is when you start to bury your movies. Domestic, it made $66 million. Worldwide, another 110. So total gross of 217 against $30 million.
Yeah, you look at the return on this, and it's massive.
Yeah, so it opened number 2 with $20 million, which is not a bad opening.
It opened behind Hotel Transylvania.
Yeah, we couldn't find a good solid box office graphic that we wanted to show you guys, but I'm just gonna throw a couple numbers out for you. This movie cost 30 and ended up making 217, right? So essentially 7 times its budget worldwide. Couple examples of some sci-fi movies, what they cost and what they ended up making worldwide, some successes and some failures. The Matrix cost $63 million, made $463 million.
Oh, you don't say.
Right? So, what's 63 times 10 would be 630, so times 5 would be 315.
It's like 7.5.
Close to the same ratio, right? So this movie was close to as successful as The Matrix, which
Right.
is one of the all-timers, right? Inception, 2010, cost $160 million to make, made $825. Again, I think about
Around
the same thing,
yes.
right? But still, by ratio, just a little bit less, right? And that's Christopher freaking Nolan
On top of the world.
Yeah.
This is Christopher Nolan on top of the world.
between Dark Knight movies, getting
Yes.
to make a sci-fi movie. That's what his movie makes.
Yeah.
12 Monkeys, which is much, much older, cost $29 and made $168.
Also a time travel
right?
movie.
Terry Gilliam.
Yeah.
At the time that Terry Gilliam made this movie, Terry Gilliam had done any number of things. He was incredibly established.
Have you heard of Monty Python?
Yeah. I mean, the guy, he was,
A director.
Academy Award nominated.
Exactly.
Like, the movie was starring Brad Pitt and Bruce Willis in the height of their
90s,
careers in 95. Now you look at a couple movies that were made, ambitious concepts from directors that didn't have quite as much box office
And one of
cred.
these movies it's fun, but the other movie is great.
Yeah. Equilibrium cost $20 million to make in 2002. A similar concept to The Matrix in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Very
You're a little late, guys. You're 3 years late.
It made $5 million worldwide. It's a David Cronenberg movie. Cronenberg has made History of Violence. He made Eastern Promises. He's made all kinds of movies that people love.
That's a brutal return.
Horrible. Total failure.
One of the bigger flops I've seen in a while.
Sunshine, which is probably my favorite sci-fi movie.
I love that movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's maybe a bold statement, but it's close to it. Cost $40 million to make and is regarded as pretty much a modern classic among sci-fi movies.
And what they do with the $40 million in that movie is incredible.
It only made 32 worldwide.
Yeah,
that's
it was a
Danny
loss.
freaking Boyle. This movie was made 2 years before he won the Oscar for Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is the guy that made Trainspotting. This is like
he's Danny Boyle. If you don't know what he's done, go and look what he's done. This guy is an incredible director, and it was a great cast.
Yeah, Danny Boyle's fantastic.
Got Cillian Murphy, Chris Evans. It's
Yeah.
like isn't Rose
Rose Byrne. Yeah. So that's just kind of like, if you look at some other recent flops from big directors, you can say Jupiter Ascending, you can see Cloud Atlas, you can see like it is really, really hard to make a sci-fi movie that has a large return on investment. This guy made this for $30 million and it made 7 times as much money. I mean, that is remarkable.
Right.
He should pretty much get the keys to the Ferrari at this point.
And look at the other movies that were made in the vicinity, like the same timeline. $30 million is not even close to anything.
Not even close.
Yeah.
No, 30 is an indie. It's fully considered to be an indie.
Yeah, absolutely. And you go and you look at the critical for this movie, and people love it.
Yeah.
All the way across the board.
Huge numbers, yeah.
Yeah,
Really.
I mean, you got 7.5 on IMDb, which I actually think is kind of low.
Yeah,
I
surprising.
think it should be like an 8 or so.
Yeah.
You go into Rotten Tomatoes. All critics, top critics, and audience in that order give it a 93, a 92, and an 82. Which I also find that kind of surprising. Like, for instance, Equilibrium was like a 30 by critics and like a 90-something by audience.
Yeah. it's
This
like a
movie, I
cult
feel like,
classic.
should be in the 90s as well by the audience. I mean, it seems like that type of movie.
It's one of the I think the adverse reaction from the audience score in this is the kind of thing where the kind of people that are watching Looper are sci-fi and action fans, but
Right.
the thing is the source material for Looper is not a book, it's not a comic book, it's actually movies that they're comparing it to, like The Terminator,
Right.
other sci-fi classics that were made that it feels similar to, and because it's a little bit derivative in that sense, I think that's why an audience would sort of feel like they're smarter than the movie and want to give it a slightly lower score than they otherwise would if it wasn't being based on a book or, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, yeah, and I think that for me is one of my favorite parts about the storytelling of this movie is that they don't waste the audiences. They let you go only so deep, and then they move you along with the story. They don't let you sit there and they don't talk. I mean, even Bruce Willis says it in the movie.
It's my favorite line in the movie.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to waste time with this time travel crap. I don't want to talk about it.
That's
you know?
yeah.
It's great. And then they also don't waste time on his other life. And the fact that they're able to sum up everything that he's done in 30 years in a 2-minute cut to is awesome.
Which is one of actually, I think, the most... I actually think that sequence is one of the best sequences in the whole movie.
It absolutely is, because it literally tells the story of 30. You don't have, after that's done, there's no questions.
Yeah.
You're not like, well, what happened? Or like, why is he this way?
It reminds me of the first 5 minutes of Up.
No way. I was literally just going to say it reminds me of the beginning of Up.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing.
Which is beautiful storytelling. When it's that succinct, it's that self-contained.
Yeah. It's just executed perfectly. I mean, I teared up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really
both
good.
parts. No, at the beginning of Up. When they tell
I think everybody did.
Yeah, there's no way you can't.
I think the beginning of Up is like one of the saddest things. Like
incredible.
Yeah, losing your loved one and animals dying will make people in America cry. In the world. Will make people in the world cry.
Anyone cry.
Anytime.
Yeah, so you go and we'll do the rotten one first. So Kirk Honeycutt from Honeycutt's Hollywood says, as a human document, though the movie is rather unpleasant as one character is tracking down and killing children while another seems bent on killing himself. Like, what?
Yeah.
Is something missing there?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's... If you think that this movie is dark...
Yeah.
Like, no. District 9 is dark.
Yeah.
Like, that... there's movies that are made that are intentionally graphic, that are very dark, that are just kind of brutal to watch. This is not a dark movie in that way.
Right.
This
And
movie
like
moves along. If you're saying as a human document, the movie is rather unpleasant as one character is tracking down and killing children while another seems bent on killing himself, it is intense that Bruce Willis kills a child.
And you see his reaction when he does it.
Yeah.
He's like disgusted with himself.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly like, I'm not saying here that like that's not dark, but like that scene is like a function of his character's desperation to move the plot along. And in some ways, we've said, like, if you're trying to figure out who is the villain in this movie, it's either Bruce Willis or it's Jeff Daniels, but I think you have to say more it's really more Bruce Willis than Jeff Daniels.
Excuse me. Bruce Willis is definitely the bad guy in this movie. Jeff Daniels is like a proxy.
Yeah.
You know, he's just like there because
a henchman,
sort of
a henchman.
He's like there to drive the story.
Yeah.
Whereas Bruce Willis is the true bad guy.
And Jeff Daniels is actually more likable than Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis.
Because Jeff Daniels is cool.
Yeah.
You know, he's just a guy.
Awesome.
Like he's like, I'm not gonna smash your fingers with a hammer. I'm just gonna talk to you. I'm not
You're
gonna
stealing
talk that
all
long.
of my favorite lines right now. My 2 options for favorite line.
You're welcome.
You just ripped them out of my
Now
hand.
you know how I felt last week with Roxy on the show.
Thanks, Roxy.
Thanks, Rox. Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. I think that it's Bruce Willis. He's the bad guy. He's the one that does all the bad things. He's the one that you're trying to stop at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And he also just completely destroys Jeff Daniels.
Yeah, absolutely. That scene is like Scene's like almost comical in some ways, but
Yeah,
so
it's
I'm
hilarious.
gonna throw in the fresh review. We have about 15 minutes left, and I want to make sure we get through our recast and all the fun games we like to play here. So the fresh review, which is I think pretty hilarious. Can we just get that picture of Emily Blunt on the screen one more
Can we
time?
just pull up
Is
that
that
picture of
possible? Can
Emily
we just
Blunt?
throw her back up there one more time?
And if you could just be quiet so I can breathe in the mic.
It says the first hour cooks and the second hour brings Emily Blunt into the story, which is a fine thing for any second half to offer. I think that's a great review.
I think it's a very good review.
It's like if
it
I-
really covers all bases of the movie.
Here's the pitch meeting. Guys, I've got a concept for a film. It's an older version of himself. It goes back in time. He has to get in a fight with his younger self, who's also a hitman. Emily Blunt's in the second half of the film, and she's chopping wood sexily.
Oh wow, you bring in Emily Blunt halfway through, huh?
It's a great pitch for a film.
Why are we talking like that?
I don't know. Is that what Hollywood execs sound
That's
like?
definitely what Hollywood. Clearly, we've never been in a room with a Hollywood exec.
Wow. Well, thanks, Captain. Anyway, so ultimate action scene. I feel like more and more as we've done this show, we used to sort of focus on this. We would try to break one scene down. Sometimes, like the bus jump and speed, it's kind of interesting. Then we started to sort of discuss which is the ultimate action scene.
Yeah.
More and more, I find I just don't care. I like the movie.
They're all good action scenes.
If there's one in particular that's worth talking about, then we talk about it.
Yeah.
Is there a scene in this movie that's like
The true ultimate action scene in this movie is what we just talked about.
Bruce
It's when
Willis.
Bruce Willis takes over. That's like a classic '90s action scene.
just annihilates everyone?
He like takes some PCP and like an invincible mushroom or something, and he goes and kills everybody.
It's like Super Mario World. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, he just goes crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, right. He's like unstoppable, and he just picks up guns.
Kills
and it's just
everybody.
It's just the Matrix lobby scene. Just,
Yeah.
Except in this movie.
Except for it's Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
And he's 60.
Willis probably wrote that in the script. He was like,
I'll do it, but I.
yeah. He's like, I need to be able to go in there and kill everyone.
I want one scene where I kill everybody.
Is that so much to ask?
Yeah, so that's got to be the scene
Yeah, I think so.
for me. But again, I'm with you, man. I feel like that part of the show is kind of just like whatever.
Yeah, we want to start to do like some more interactive stuff, and we will definitely introduce some more of those. I think in the coming weeks we have some
Got
pretty
that
cool
new
ideas.
one today. I like that. I like it, and I hated it that we had to rank the movies. But I think it's a really cool thing. For
This
us
will
to
be a
talk
good
about.
one. So let's do favorite line, and we'll hero villain ranking, and then we'll get into recast. My two favorite lines were the ones you just stole.
Oh, oops! I did it again.
I think. Did you just?
What?
Britney Spears? Did you just?
I don't understand the reference.
I love that he says actually verbatim in the diner. I don't want to sit here talking about time travel because it's a waste of time and it'll make my head hurt or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the exact line, but it's just it's the most like tip my hat to the audience.
It's the writer breaking the fourth wall.
It's
Just
Rian
shut
Johnson
up.
saying,
"Yeah,
look, there's no way for us to explain time travel.
we can't do
It
it."
doesn't make sense. Everybody knows that. It makes like anytime your future self is talking to your former self,
Right.
you can talk
But
about
what about all the
splitting off
worlds and
realities.
yeah.
Like none of it makes sense. You can't explain it, and you never will be able to.
No.
So why? So let's just talk about
The movie
and the relationship.
story.
Rian Johnson says he goes on record in an interview for this film saying, "I wanted this movie to be about characters and their relationships. I wanted to get the time travel stuff off the table as soon as I could because I didn't want to have to explain it the whole time." He does a fantastic job. That line, I guess the other line I was gonna say I like when Jeff Daniels is ranting, but I'll go with my other favorite because I love her. Is when Emily Blunt first comes out and she's yelling at the hobo before she sees him.
Oh, right.
It's when she sees JGL hiding in the and she's like, "I'll cut you the fucking half," and she's got her shotgun.
Yeah.
She's
It's
just
great.
amazing.
She's super hot.
What do
With
you
a
got?
kind of southern accent.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that because, like, I do a decent amount of improv. You've done improv
Yeah.
as well. Characters and relationships is the bread and butter. That's what drives every scene, every great scene in improv. And it's the same thing with movies.
Yeah.
If it's about characters and relationships, I'm there. I'm
Yeah.
sold. You can put everything away. You can get, yeah. Anyway, so I actually had a couple favorite lines, but then I remembered, I think my real favorite line is the one at the end of the movie. And he's standing there and he goes, "And then I saw it. I saw a mom who would die for her son, a man who would kill for his wife, a boy, angry and alone, laid out in front of him the bad path. I saw it and the path was a circle, round and round. And so I changed it."
It's a good line.
It's very good.
Yeah.
And his delivery of it is great, and it's perfect for the title of the movie. It's perfect for everything that goes around, comes around. Like, you're just sitting there and you're watching it, and you kind of have that realization, because when we were watching it, you were like,
Yeah.
"I don't remember how this movie ends." And he
Yeah.
starts saying that line, you're like, "Oh yeah,
Yep.
I remember how it goes down."
Yep.
And it's great.
Very good. I agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Okay, so I don't think there's a hero villain ranking in this movie.
I don't know.
Oh,
I thought about it. I was sitting here at the beginning of the show, and I don't think I have a 50
okay.
on my list. I think I want to put Joseph Gordon-Levitt at 50
For a hero?
for a hero.
Wow, that's...
I just love what he does in this movie. I love I love the character. I love this journey that he goes through.
Yeah.
I love that he sacrifices himself to save the world. I love that he sleeps with Emily Blunt.
I love that scene.
I love that he has this like father-son relationship with Sid.
Yeah,
He's just a fucking cool guy. He's a good character.
fair enough.
I'm gonna put him at 50.
Joe from Looper at number 50 on
Joe
Andrew's
from Looper,
list.
yeah.
Andrew.
Yes.
That would actually knock off Brian Mills from Taken.
Ooh.
Is Mills 50?
Mills is 50, looking at it right here.
Who's 49?
Max Ratansky from Fury Road.
All right, I'm moving all of them up. I'm gonna put Looper at 50, Taken at 49,
Rocktansky
and
48.
Rocktansky at 48.
Nailed it.
Perfect.
Good
Thank
for you.
you so much.
Thanks for the shout out. I just don't think...
I
It's-
totally understand.
I could see them both being in the top 100 possibly.
Yeah.
And maybe as this movie ages, as this continues to age,
Mm-hmm.
they'll move up. Because this, like I said, I do think this will be considered a modern classic.
Yeah.
But as it stands now, they don't jump off the screen at me kind of in just a way that is notable. So let's move to the second list.
I understand that.
Actually, no. We're actually gonna do recast first, and then we will show
yeah.
our ranking. So we chose 5 roles to recast. The 5 roles that we are going to recast are Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Bruce Willis, Emily Blunt, Jeff Daniels, and Scott Segan. Is that what it is?
I think it's Scott.
What's his first name? Segan.
It's
It's the jackass with a gat.
it's a jackass with the gat that shoots himself in the foot.
I'm gonna jump in first and do the jackass that shoots himself in the foot with the gat. And this is an old recast, so we go back to basically.
You know that's a real gun
yeah.
that was in production. That gat.
Really?
It's absurd, right? It's like 45 to 70 caliber handgun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Just a fun thing to talk about.
Basically, this is an old one. So you're gonna take actors who were the correct age to play these roles between essentially like 85 and 95,
Yeah.
or like 87 and 97, sort of like that decade in there somewhere. And obviously, now it's a little easier to get specific, but when we're going back that old, you can pick and choose, like, do I want this guy from 87 and this chick from 96, and you kind of just mash them into one reality. And that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to start out, I'm going to go Christian Slater.
Christian Slater. That is a very good one.
Like, for
I
him,
do love that one.
like early 90s, like late 80s, like I think he was in, was it Black Rain or Hard Rain? Hard Rain, maybe?
Yeah, I think it was hard, right?
Yeah, but,
he was also in Cuffs. If
yes.
any of you guys have seen Cuffs, that movie's awesome.
Like pre-Broken Arrow, like
Yeah.
just a few years before Broken Arrow, Christian Slater, I think he'd be
Perfect.
just right.
He's
Yeah.
such a weasel.
Yeah, True Romance, right? That's Christian Slater?
I think so. I haven't seen that movie in so long, which is, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it's I'm almost positive. Yeah, so that's my dickhead with a gun.
Right.
What do you got?
I went with Joshua Jackson.
Pacey?
Skulls.
Pacey?
Yeah.
Dawson's Creek?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
He's just a douche. Like, he
Yeah.
would be perfect in this role. Oh my God, I just remembered. My other favorite line was, and I'm sorry to go back, was when he's like, I'm going to France. You should go to China. I'm going to France. I'm from the future. You should go to China.
Yeah, it's great. That's a really good line.
Which is funny because the original script called him to go to, that's why he was learning French, was he was supposed to go to Paris, but
Yeah.
then they realized that they couldn't afford to film there because they only had $30 million. So the Chinese distributor was like, you know, if you guys film in China, I'll just take care of everything. So that's why they changed it to China.
Nice.
Anyway, sorry. Back to Joshua Jackson. I just don't like him.
He's a shit weasel?
He's a shit weasel.
Is
I mean,
he?
he's actually like he's fine in the Skulls. He's in Mighty Ducks.
He's in Mighty Ducks?
But I just think
He's in the
just his
divorce, or
face.
that new show, The Affair, isn't he?
I'm not sure.
Pretty sure
Oh,
he's in the Affair.
I could have put James Vanderbeek there too.
He just wanted a shit weasel.
I
They're
just
they're
want-
equally shit weasels and
Yes,
from the same show.
for me, yeah, exactly.
I like it. I like it. Okay, I'm gonna move on to Jeff Daniels' character. I had 2 that I really liked here, and I think I'm gonna go Hackman. I'm gonna go early '90s Hackman.
It's like Enemy of the State.
Yeah.
A little before that.
Before
early
that,
90s.
like the
95
firm,
was Enemy
like
of
the
the State.
firm,
right?
like the firm era Hackman, or like, after Uncommon Valor, but like more like
I
mid.
like Gene Hackman.
Yeah, mid '90s, because not when he's like so old that he's like Tenenbaum's old. I'm thinking more
very
like
old.
92, 93, 94. Gene Hackman. My other option was Warren Beatty, but I think I
I
like
like Warren Beatty.
I like Hackman in this role.
Remember how we were going to try to bring Hackman on the show?
Yeah.
But he just retired?
Yeah, he
I guess
doesn't
he
do-
writes novels now.
He doesn't do appearances anymore.
Writes fiction.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went with Anthony Hopkins.
Amistad era.
Amistad and Mask of Zorro era.
Instinct.
Like, between there.
Yeah.
He's like old enough. And the thing is, Jeff Daniels isn't physically intimidating.
Hearts in Atlantis.
I can't believe I haven't heard of that movie in so long. Meet Joe Black.
Right.
Um,
It's a good era.
I think he'd be great because it's all about line delivery.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Okay. I mean, Hopkins is an Oscar winner. He's incredible.
He's incredible.
The Edge. Oh my God.
I love The Edge.
We're doing that on this show.
Can we? Is the bear the smartest person in the room?
100. He's a genius.
Okay, what about them being police or military or political?
We break the rules all the time.
Is he a senator or something? He could be a senator.
He's a genius. He's very smart.
We're talking about the bear or Anthony Hopkins?
Both.
The bear was a senator in Edge.
The Bears' Mensa
The
score
Edge.
was off the charts. No, we need to do that movie.
a sweet movie.
I fucking love that movie.
Yeah.
All right.
I went with Aniston for Blunt.
Oh, okay.
Mid-90s
Like
Aniston.
Early Friends.
Yeah, early Friends, like, was that Picture Perfect movie? Things like that, Office Space.
Was Reality Bites, was that her? Or am I
think so.
mixing up?
I don't know. But,
Permanent Midnight.
She's kind of that girl.
Yeah,
she's kind of the it girl in the 90s. Like, she might be a little too, like, cute and quirky for Emily Blunt's role.
Yep.
But I think Emily Blunt could pull off a Jennifer Aniston role. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
She just doesn't really do it.
Yeah. I decided to go with Diane Lane. Mid-90s Diane Lane.
I feel like she's a little old.
Well, okay, so Rumblefish is like 87, I think, or 86, and she's like a kid in Rumblefish. So I'm jumping forward to like the mid-90s, like I think pre-Unfaithful, pre-Hardball.
Unfaithful.
What's
I
like?
forgot about that.
I'm trying to think of like a Diane Lane movie from like the mid-90s that jumps out. For the record, guys, I love Diane Lane. As far as my older woman crush goes, she's pretty much number one.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people love Catherine Zeta-Jones, and I love Catherine Zeta-Jones.
I love Catherine Zeta-Jones.
But Diane Lane is like, if I saw her on a red carpet or something, if she was there, I would
ask her to marry
lose
me.
my mind. Like I talked to Carla Gugino pretty recently.
Ooh, I love her.
Yeah, I talked to her at the what's it called premiere, the San Andreas.
Yeah. That's what
I was pretty struck by how beautiful she was. But Diane Lane is like really high on that.
So she would have been 35 and 95. That's fine.
Yeah, and she looks young. She's always looked
absolutely.
pretty
She's
young.
very
So
attractive.
I love Diane Lane.
She's a good older woman crush. I remember I used to really, really love Elizabeth Hurley when Bedazzled
Yeah,
came out.
yeah.
That was a big one.
Yeah.
And then, is it Selma Hayek that's in
Frida.
Desperado?
Yeah, she's
I love her eyebrow.
Yeah. Let's keep rolling. Willis, what do you got?
Nolte. And it's because I cast...
Come on, Tommy. You sound like a goddamn rocket walking through the door.
It's because I cast Swayze as Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And
Swayze
and Nolte. I think that you could do almost the same thing with their makeup in the 90s.
Swayze is my all-time favorite actor.
Yep.
The fact that I think he's too much of a cowboy. He's not awkward enough.
I think you could make him awkward.
Yeah, he's
Just cut his hair, clean him up, because he's always got the long flowing...
he could do no wrong.
He could do no wrong.
Yeah. I like that. That sounds interesting.
I just figure if I use Swayze, you just can't really talk that much crap about it.
Not at all. I think it's a great decision. Yeah, Swayze. I'm so sad he's gone.
Yeah, it's
Never
a
got
rough
to
one.
meet him.
We could do
Breaks my-
Roadhouse one day.
Breaks my heart that Swayze's gone. For my Willis, went with Paul Newman.
Yeah.
And Newman at the time would be a little old. He's right on the edge.
Right.
Because 86, he's in Color of Money.
And
he's already pretty old, but he's kind of he's reprising like a younger...
Do you think that he could pull off like the gunfighting scene and all that?
I have a feeling he could. He might be just past it, but like the
Could
thing
he
is...
kick his younger self's ass like Bruce Willis does?
Like, I think that if you were to... Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
And
okay.
I think even if you... He's so charming and sort of cunning in his look that I think even if you didn't go with the physical stuff, you would be able to like make him win just by smarts and like...
Look at how handsome he is.
God, I love Paul Newman.
He's great.
He's amazing. So and I'm gonna just pair it with which is gonna crack you guys up. I had 3 that I went with that I liked. Right. I really like Mickey Rourke, like late '80s Mickey Rourke.
Pretty boy Mickey Rourke.
He's a little too pretty though for my taste.
Yeah.
I really, really, really liked the idea of using Keanu Reeves, like Point Break era Reeves.
I think that's the best one that you had.
And I think that's pretty damn good because he's sort of awkward in that same way. But I ended up actually, and this is gonna seem ridiculous, going with Tom Cruise. And I'm not talking.
No.
And I'm not talking like late '90s. I'm talking late '80s because if you watch Color of Money, he's this like confident, earnest
Rain Man
kid.
time too.
Yeah, it's 2 years prior. I'm thinking like Risky Business era, Top Gun era. Like he's confident, he's brash, but he's kind of a jackass, and he's overconfident. He thinks he's like God's gift to this earth, and he seems like a kid. And in Color of Money, when he's across from Paul Newman, there's this great dynamic. And I think if you use that same exact dynamic for this, I think it would have been fantastic.
What if we did what about Wahlberg and Bridges?
It's good.
Would you do? Because Wahlberg at the time would have been perfect.
But Jeff Bridges back then?
Yeah. You think he's old enough? He'd be in his 40s.
Yeah, probably. Like Fearless was like 93, I think.
I don't know where that just came from, but I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, it's not bad.
All right. So we can talk about our new thing.
Oh yeah. So because you just did yours as well.
Yeah.
Cage versus Cruz. It's pretty clear that I just went with Cage, or I just went with Cruz. So, which is not surprising at all. We are going to talk about the final categories game here, guys. There's 3 action movie categories in our opinion. There is Totally Legitimate, which is basically summarized by The Fugitive, or some movie that is totally like just a real movie that happens to have action in it.
Right.
There's Totally Ridiculous, which is like a movie that falls off the cliff of absurdity, kind of like a Face Off or a Con Air. And then there are movies that are legitimately ridiculous, which are the basic
Rock?
ridiculously legitimate. I think you can call it either one.
Yeah.
The Rock is like the example. We always use. Predator, yeah, Speed. You know, they're kind of silly. You laugh at a lot of lines unintentionally, but they're riveting.
Yeah.
They're pulse pounding.
Absolutely.
You know, they could be characterized as like a slam bang action thriller. No, I'm just going off an edge here.
Peter Travers.
So we are going to talk about that category, but really quickly, we're going to look at where we put our 2 lists. Andrew and I went through the 23 movies that we've done on this show, and we ranked them. And we're going to have to decide here, where does Looper fit into our respective lists. So this is Andrew's list we have on the screen right now.
So I'd like you guys to look at my list and remember that I have The Matrix and Gladiator. Gladiator, clearly, you don't even have to have like a sick love with that movie. That movie is the best movie.
Gladiator's really good. I mean,
Air Force One, incredibly high. Con Air was literally 1 behind Air Force One. It was at number 10 or number 9, but then I was like, I can't do that. Like I have like a weird obsession. Yeah. But I'm happy with my list after it comes down to it. I think it's pretty good. I think if I'm gonna do Looper, which I'm first because I'm up there, it has to go at number 6 behind Terminator 2.
wow.
Yeah, ahead of Man on Fire, ahead of Edge of Tomorrow.
That is really high.
It is very high.
Looper is better than Bourne. It's better than Minority Report. It's better than MI3.
I love this movie, and it's funny that when this movie came out in 2012, between 2012 and 13, I probably watched this movie like I said, I've seen it probably close to 10 times. I probably watched it about 8 or 9 times in that time.
Wow.
And then I just didn't watch it for a couple of years.
Huh.
And then I went back and watched it with you the other day. I love this movie.
It's really good.
It is one of the better movies I've seen. To me, it's basically perfect.
Yeah.
There's not anything I can really complain about. So I'm going to put Looper at number 6.
Can see here that we have Independence Day on both of our lists as the worst movie we've ever done on this show.
I think the bottom 4 are very similar on ours. Right?
Yeah. I believe they are, yeah. All right, so as you guys can see, Terminator 2, I believe, is the greatest action film of all time. I was not shy about sharing that opinion in the first place. I have a sick love for James Cameron because Aliens just fucking blew my mind.
Yeah, incredible.
The Matrix is incredible. Obviously, Live Die Repeat's the one that's like sort of...
That's your Air Force One.
Yeah, and the reason that I feel that way about Live Die Repeat is that the movie only came out a year ago.
Yeah.
But I've seen it probably 10 times in a year, and every time I watch it, I'm so engaged.
Yeah, you love that movie.
It's just great.
You love that movie so much.
It's just great. So, I mean, it's really absurd for me to put that ahead of Gladiator. But when I watched Gladiator again, I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. This is a really great movie. Live Die Repeat, I'm like, I just want to watch that again. And I've watched Gladiator a lot of times, but I don't know. It's hard. We're sort of trying to throw out the whole greatest versus favorite conversation.
Be very careful here what you're saying.
I have a gun between my legs.
Between my legs and a pen in my hand. Again, this is favorites, not greatest.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely an air of like impact that we're putting on here. It's not just favorite.
Right, like Die Hard moved up a lot on my list, even though for me it wasn't like...
Yeah.
I do really enjoy it, but you got to remember what that movie did for all action movies.
For instance, Point Break is my all-time favorite movie, but when we do Point Break, I'm having a hard time believing it's going to be anywhere inside the top 7 or 8 on there.
Yeah,
It'll end up fitting somewhere in there for me because it's just not a better movie than T2. There's just no way. So
what happens when we do Warrior, man?
Yeah, we'll see. I know. So Looper for me is probably better than it's falling right in.
I think I know exactly where it's going to go on your list.
For me,
yeah.
it falls somewhere between 7 and 9.
I had it at 7 for you. I had it that it would be better than Mad Max.
Mad Max.
That's what I thought. But
yeah, I mean, is it better than Die Hard? You're exactly right.
Yeah.
I think I put it at exactly 7 because Gladiator I still think is a better movie. Die Hard is still more important and it's tight in the same way. And Mad Max Fury Road is the movie that I have to watch again, and it might just jump up on my list just because.
I think it will, man. When I watched it, because I rented it again last week, and I watched it, and I watched it 3 times in the course of 24 or 48 hours.
Yeah, it was an awesome movie. But for now, I'm gonna move Mad Max to 8, and I'm gonna put Looper in at 7, and that if it's not obvious to our listeners, we are, I'm pretty much sure, both putting it in Totally Legit.
Yeah, it's definitely totally legit.
Yeah, there's nothing about
Absolutely,
this movie that
there's
seems anything other than totally legit. So,
I sorry to cut you off. There is this. This is quite an arduous task. It took us a while to do it. If you guys want to do this, we would absolutely love to see your guys' list. We already love all the other interactive things you do. If you have time to go and rank these 24 movies, please, God, go do it. I can't wait to see what order you put them in to know what your favorite action movie is.
Yeah, so the two ideas I would say would be either leave it in the YouTube comments for this one, which would be cool, or if you want to just like write it on your phone, screen cap it, and then tweet that picture at us. If you tweet the picture, that's the easiest because I can retweet the picture for you, and we can we'll comment and everything like that. Let's start a dialogue going. That'd be a lot of fun. So the last thing to do here, guys, is we are going to give one more mug away right now. And like I said, the deal with this is we have 20 ratings right now and 17 reviews. So we're going to give mugs away right now until we get to 20 reviews. And I know we had said previously we were just going to give more mugs away at that point, but they're taking longer to get here. They're costing a bit more than we thought.
And we're tired of making you guys wait for them, honestly.
Yeah, we're gonna basically just try to introduce like new interactive games to do other cool giveaways. So this is the mug. The mug game is coming to an end pretty soon here. Once we get 3 more, we're gonna stop. So I would recommend get on that train so you can still win a mug.
That's right.
Today, first off, wanted to give a shout out to JLF Plus, who has not tweeted at us. We gave you the first mug. We need to hear from you so we can get it to you.
Tweet.
Scoops35 and Hurst, you guys both know who you are. FlyRide23, I think
was last week, right?
Last week, and I think you tweeted at us, so I think you know you want a mug. Today, we are giving one to, was it Jeff the Recruiter? Was that?
Jeff the Recruiter.
Jeff the Recruiter, who I think was the 16th review we got.
Okay.
I believe so. If it's something else the Recruiter, you can shout me out. There's probably not 2 of you whose names are something the Recruiter.
There's Jeff and Mike the Recruiter. They're in a battle now.
I believe it's Jeff the Recruiter. So congratulations, you will have your mug. Just get us the details when you hear this. And aside from that, that does it, right?
This was fun.
This was a lot of fun.
All right.
Guys, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us on Action Movie Anatomy. Be sure to check out the other shows on Popcorn Talk.
Yeah.
And we will see you guys next week.
Boom.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only, and not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.